Evening, and welcome to the public hearing on the 2016 Capital Improvements Budget. I am Councilmember President Tyson, and I am President Pro Tem of Columbus City Council, and I chair the Finance Committee. I'd like to thank you for joining us tonight for this discussion of the 2016 Capital Improvements Budget. I am so excited. I am joined tonight by all my Councilmember Hardin, Councilmember Mitchell Brown, Councilmember Elizabeth Brown, Councilmember Jiza Page, and Councilmember Michael Stenziano. Before we begin, please be aware that this hearing is being recorded for rebroadcast on CTV, the Columbus Government Television Channel 3, and the rebroadcast schedule is available at www.columbus.gov. What is the Capital Improvements Budget? We are here today to review the 2016 Capital Improvements Budget. The Capital Improvements Budget represents the city's strategic obligation to maintaining and improving the roads, bridges, sewers, parks, buildings, and other infrastructure. These investments are community-focused and symbolize the city's commitment to improving the business climate and maintaining the high quality of life for our residents. This capital budget includes $866 million in new funding for capital projects. The total amount of the 2016 Capital Improvements Budget is $1,331 million. Before passage, on Monday, May 2nd, Council will amend the budget, investing a total of $2,250,000 in community-related projects. Council members will have an opportunity to share additional details about those amendments later in this hearing. It is also important to note that the 2016 Capital Improvements Budget includes $165 million in carryover funding from last year. The proposal that we'll hear tonight prioritizes jobs and safety and neighborhoods. Columbus is one of the best managed cities in the country. We continue to be the largest city in America to receive a AAA bond rating from the three major credit rating agencies. I appreciate that we are able to make capital improvements that enhance and maintain infrastructure that is critical to the quality of living for our residents. Through my work with the National League of Cities, I travel throughout the country and have firsthand accounts from elected officials in other cities about their inability to make these type of capital improvements that we are able to fund in Columbus. A substantial portion of the CIB supports water, sewer, and stormwater. Considering the deteriorating infrastructure that many cities are experiencing, I am pleased to say that we understand the importance of ensuring water and sewer safety and the benefit of this to our residents. I will now move on to today's presenters. First, we will have an overview from Director Joe Lombardi, the Finance Director, as well as representatives from the city departments who will highlight portions of their proposed capital improvement budget relevant to their departments. We will then hear from the council members who will speak on their amendments. Before I begin, I would like to again thank the departments and the mayor and his team for the spirit of cooperation that has been exhibited to us in this process. That's why we're here today. I will now turn this hearing over to the Director Lombardi to share the administration's capital improvements budget.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Tyson and members of council, for the opportunity this evening to talk about the 2016 citywide capital improvement budget. This evening, I'll talk briefly an overview of the budget itself, and then my colleagues will speak more specifically about their departments. As you know, the development of this budget is a lot of work, takes a lot of effort from a lot of different folks. It is an ongoing process, a lot of give and take. I want to thank Kyle Seaver and Rob Newman from my office for all the hard work that they put in. They coordinate all this with all the departments, and they do all the heavy lifting for this budget. I also would like to thank the administration, the staffs of City Council, the City Auditor's Office, and all my department colleagues here this evening for all their input and their help along the way. Before I discuss the specifics of the budget, let me first define the difference between the capital improvement budget and the capital improvement plan. The capital improvement budget, or the CIB as it's referred to, is the current year capital budget needs for city departments and addresses those projects that are earmarked for the coming fiscal year. On the other hand, a capital improvement plan, or CIP as it's referred to, is a 5-year long-term plan projecting future capital needs of the city of Columbus. The CIP is actually 6 years. It includes the current year CIB plus 5 years of planned projects by the city departments. The funding for the projects in the 2016 CIB will come from proceeds of future bond sales, state and federal funding sources. This capital budget continues to invest in health and safety, neighborhoods, recreation and parks, public and private projects, and utility infrastructure. You want to know what's purchased? We'll tell you here. We purchased the design, construction, and renovation of police substations, fire stations, pools, parks, recreation centers, and other city facilities. Citywide street resurfacing, citywide sidewalks and curb replacement, fire apparatuses and police vehicles, refuse collection equipment, including the bins that we use for our recycling, and obviously the utility infrastructure and plant improvements. As you know, as the city benefits from a better performance of the income tax collection, this allows for extra capacity and funding. This allows the administration to work hand in hand with council to add projects to the budget and to the plan. The city, as you mentioned, continues to maintain a AAA bond rating from the rating agencies, partially due to the fact that 0.25% of the income tax that is collected is deposited into a separate fund. We do pay a few leases and some tipping fees from that fund, but the majority of that money is used to pay down the debt for those projects that are in the non-enterprise funds. The CIB takes into account two components. There's new funding, and then there's carryover funding. Carryover funding are those dollars from prior year that are then reappropriated. The 2016 CIB submitted to the City Council totals approximately $1 billion. This amount includes all funding sources as well as the new and carryover funding. The breakdown of those components for this budget are as follows. The total new funding for 2016 is $866 million, and the total carryover funding is $165 million. By source, this is both carryover and new funding, is as follows. The SIT supported, which is the projects that are supported by the income tax, the total amount is $327 million, with new funding of $243 million and a carryover of $84 million. The enterprise supported funds, which are the water, sewer, stormwater, and power divisions, totals $337 million. That's $277 million of new money with a carryover of $60 million. Then we have internal services funds. These are the agencies within the city that charge other agencies to continue to operate for their operations. One example would be our fleet management division. The total is $18 million with new funding of $6 million and a carryover of $12 million. There are other funds as well. The Permanent Improvement Fund, which is typically all carryover, and it's for the sale of city assets when we receive money for the sale of any of our assets. That's all carryover, and it's about $10 million in this budget. The Public Utilities Department also uses the Ohio Water Development Authority loans. Approximately $332 million are earmarked in this budget. These are low-interest loans used for our utility projects through the State of Ohio EPA. And then there's the State Infrastructure Loan Program, about $8 million in this budget. This loan program is utilized by the Department of Public Service. It should be mentioned that all enterprise debt, including the loans through the OWDA, are supported by user fees of water, sewer, and power customers. No income tax dollars are used for the enterprise funds. That concludes my overview of the 2016 citywide CIB. At this time, I would like to discuss briefly the Department of Finance and Management's capital budget, which also includes projects for the Department of Health. The Department of Finance and Management has a new funding CIB totaling $28 million. Some of those highlighted projects include $12 million for the continuation of the renovations of City Hall. This includes HVAC system, security enhancements, and plumbing. $6 million is being requested for the renovations of the HVAC system at the Health Department located at 240 Parsons Avenue. And $3 million is budgeted for the continued renovations of the municipal court building on High Street. We do maintain that building for them. This concludes my briefing for the evening, and again, I would like to thank council, the administration, and all my colleagues here with me this evening for all your help and involvement in this process, and I will answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Director Lombardi. Just have a couple questions on the budget. So you just mentioned, what is the anticipated return on the investment for the upgrades and modernization of City Hall, which is budgeted at $12.6 million?
So the part of the renovations is to make it ADA compliant in some areas. Also, for those of us who work in City Hall, the HVAC system comes and goes, and so we're going to upgrade that to a more efficient HVAC system. Also, new plumbing throughout the building, and there's also other phases that will be in later years, looking at renovating the floors and the offices and just modernizing the building in which we're all in this evening.
Thank you. And some of those improvements will have hopefully some utility cost savings with some of the, especially with the HVAC systems being put in. Is that correct?
That is correct. With a more efficient HVAC system, we should see some savings in our electrical cost and natural gas costs as well.
Thank you. You mentioned the health department, and I know that they want to upgrade their environmental systems on our Parsons Avenue facility, and that's budgeted at $5.9 million. Can you share a little more information regarding that?
So at the health department, they have to have an overhaul of their HVAC system, and we are also looking at potentially doing some renovations in what we call the South Dorm. Those are still under discussion at this time, but we want to do some renovations there to give them more room as well, build out a little bit to give them some more room for staffing and for their customers.
And lastly, with fleet, I know there's no new money in 2016, but there's a $5.6 million carryover for the CNG West. Can you provide really a brief overview of the importance of the city's efforts around the CNG?
Sure. As the city continues to look to reduce its carbon footprint, CNG is becoming a very big alternative fuel source for some of our vehicles. This will enable us to have an additional CNG station on the west side, so it should put us at all locations throughout the city, north, south, east, and west, for our agencies and the public to fill their CNG vehicles up, and should help us reduce the costs of our fuel that we use, our petroleum fuel or gasoline, if you will. So the CNG should help lower that cost, and it is a cleaner fuel, so it does help our carbon emissions as well.
Thank you. It's important that the questions I'm asking are certainly, just want the viewing and listening audience to realize that the investment in our infrastructure is truly important to the overall quality of life in our community. And they certainly do affect neighborhoods in significant ways. And neighborhoods are a priority for this body, and that's why the questions I'm really asking are going to be around, one, how does it affect our neighborhoods? Two, how does it help us in terms of us to reduce our costs within the city of Columbus as we committed to the voters when we got our income tax increase? So those are just some of the kinds of questions so that people realize that how powerful the capital budget is, how it affects our communities. Thank you for your presentation, Director Lombardi. And just want to share one last point on the overall budget is certainly that there is significant voter-approved debt within this budget, and voters approved this debt through through our voter bond package in either 2008 or 2013, and that's still a portion of this budget. Is that correct?
That is correct. The majority of that voted bond package is in the Utilities Department. If you will, I can speak a little bit about the voted bond package and how that helps the city of Columbus, especially when it comes to getting reduced rates on our bonds. From time to time, the city will go out, as you know, and have a voted bond package, which we ask the citizens to vote on various packages. And we have been very, very successful over the years of those being voted in. And what that does is allow us just another opportunity to show how confident our citizens are in our city. We have never had to do this since 1956, but it does allow us to levy a property tax on our properties should we need to do that to pay the debt. But since 1956, the city of Columbus has never had to levy that property tax on our citizens. So, and that also is part and parcel of why we continue to have a AAA bond rating. It shows the confidence to the rating agencies that our citizens believe in what we're doing.
You're absolutely right. When you sit on those calls for the rating agencies, that's a key component. So thank you. Any questions for Director Lombardi? No? All right. Director, who's the next presenter? We think it's Deputy Director Kate Pisciotti, representing Public Safety.
Council President Pro Tem Tyson, members of council, good evening. The Public Safety Department's proposed 2016 capital improvement budgets is focused on the mayor's priorities of protecting Columbus's neighborhoods by building new police and fire facilities, providing new firefighting equipment, providing fiber and server storage for body-worn cameras, and upgrading radio communications. The 2016 Public Safety capital budget proposes $27.2 million in new funding. This funding can be broken down into 4 general areas: new police and fire facilities, fire apparatus replacements, technology improvements, and safety facilities improvements. $8.5 million are set aside to build a new Fire Station 35 on Wagoner Road on the Far East Side. This is the first new addition to the 34 fire companies since Station 34 was built in 2003. This fire station will help improve the response time to the Far East area on Wagoner Road north of Broad Street. $1 million are also allocated in this budget for the acquisition of land in the far north area to build a police substation. This will greatly improve response time in the ever-growing Polaris area of Columbus due to the closest substation in the Polaris area being on Carl and Morse Road. This year's budget includes infrastructure improvements to support body camera operations for the Division of Police. $1.1 million is earmarked to upgrade 9 police facilities to fiber connections for video uploading and review, and $1.4 million for expanded storage needs for body camera video footage. Now, apparatus, the department proposes a total of $6 million in new funding for the purchase of fire apparatus. In 2008, a vehicle replacement standard was adopted, and the Department of Public Safety has made significant strides in replacing out-of-life cycle vehicle units outside the scope of the replacement standard. To date, the Division of Fire has all frontline vehicles within the RS adopted by the city and is very close to having all units within the RS. This is a programmatic and marked improvement in the fleet for the division, resulting in more reliable and newer equipment on the street, ensuring optimum response times for the division. With this funding, the division will procure 2 ladders, 4 engines, and 4 medics. Police and fire facility renovations. The capital budget proposes $3.6 million for police and fire facility renovations. While considerable investment has been made in new facilities over the past several years, there remains a significant need to upgrade parking lots, replace generators, replace windows, roof repairs, and general facility improvements for police and fire facilities. Additionally, the Division of Fire has a need to replace its existing SCBA equipment used in its firefighting operations to provide self-contained oxygen to firefighters. The currently deployed SCBA equipment has not been replaced since 2004 and is no longer covered under manufacturer warranty, resulting in higher costs to replace those items that comprise the SCBA system. The budget of $4 million will replace all SCBA equipment and bring us up to date on new NFPA standards. And as a part of a comprehensive approach to preventing and fighting crime in Columbus neighborhoods, the city of Columbus entered into contract with Simplex Grinnell in 2011 to design and install cameras in five original neighborhoods. The original contract has since been modified to increase the number of cameras in the 5 original neighborhoods and to install cameras in the downtown area. The current budget of $1 million will fund the expansion of this program to include more cameras in the near and far east side, the Hilltop, Cleveland Avenue, and other areas that are being studied. And that's all I have at this time.
Thank you, Deputy Director Pisciotti. I know your last comment regarding the safety cameras, the $1 million. My own question for that is, can you share with our viewing and listening audience that the importance of the neighborhood safety program, and how does this serve as a force amplifier for the Columbus Division of Police?
The cameras are a force multiplier because they're eyes and ears in the neighborhoods. The cameras are being monitored and have been a great deterrent for crime in neighborhoods. The neighborhoods that have had them installed have been very enthused about the installation and have seen a difference in the types of crimes that are going on in their areas.
Thank you. And you certainly mentioned the I think the $1.5 million is in the server storage, thinking about the body cameras.
Yes, ma'am.
And I know that someone just stopped me today and asked me, about the timeline for the body cameras. And maybe you could share some information about that. I know Councilmember Mitchell Brown also would like to add some comments.
Yes, ma'am. We've been meeting for a long time with a body camera committee to go over policies and recommendations. At this time, we have a draft RFP, and we have some fine-tuning to do. We're getting the group together that will evaluate the RFP, and we're hoping to have the RFP out in the next month with legislation to council in September. And the first phase of the cameras deployed before the end of 2016.
Thank you. Any questions for Deputy Director Pisciotti? Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Pro Tem. The issues that, with regards to public safety, are very, very significant. As you've already heard from Deputy Director Pisciotti, everyone's mind is body cameras. And I can assure the public, viewing and listening public, that the committee that's been working on this project has done a very, very diligent job. I've attended multiple meetings with them. In fact, there's one tonight, which is a community meeting. It is not a hearing. It is simply a meeting where folks will have an opportunity to hear what has been going on with regards to these these meetings in regards to cameras. We're excited about it, the activity, but we're moving in the appropriate fashion. We're not moving aggressively. We're moving at appropriate speed and being appropriately diligent with regards to this application. Body cameras are very, very important to this community. It's a priority of this mayor and certainly a priority of the police division, and they're going to speak to that issue tonight. So we're very pleased that we were able to help by providing the additional dollars that they're going to need to move forward on both the infrastructure, i.e. the servers, and then subsequently as they go out to bid on what type of body cameras they're actually going to have. For me also, if I may, President Pro Tem, there are 2 amendments that are going to be added to the public safety budget, if I may speak to those, please. The first amendment provides funding for a Better Municipal Care for Veterans program administered by the Department of Development. This program provides a grant assistance of up to $20,000 to veterans and their families for critical home repairs. The mission of the Better Municipal Care for Veterans program is to assist eligible veterans to remain in their homes and to live independently in a safe and sound environment. And to the listening public, again, the viewing public, if you have questions, you can certainly contact the Better Municipal Care for Veterans Intake Their line is 614-645-8526, or they can be contacted by email at homesafeandsound@columbus.gov. That's the First Amendment. And the Second Amendment, which is very, very significant with regards to public safety, provides funding to replace industrial-grade laundry equipment currently in use in the cleaning of turnout gear used by firefighters. Firefighter cancer is a looming catastrophe for each firefighter. Cancer is the most dangerous and unrecognized threat to the health and safety of our firefighters. Columbus Fire Division has experienced 47 new cancer cases in the last few years. One of the contributing factors to the increase is the exposure to carcinogens and the products of combustion found in modern firefighting. Once exposed, the dirty contaminated turnout gear becomes a risk to the firefighters. The longer that contaminants remain on the turnout gear, the greater the threat. There's also a great threat to the health and welfare of our firefighters. With increased concern, the turnout gear is being cleaned more frequently. So the objective is to expend additional dollars to buy more industrial-sized washing capabilities for our firefighters. So thank you for the opportunity to be able to add that. Director Prashadi, if you have any comments with regards to this equipment?
Council Chair Brown, I'd just like to say that the current turnout gear laundry equipment that the firefighters have is 17 years old, so I know that they are going to be ecstatic about this council budget amendment. So thank you.
That's all I have, Council President.
Thank you, Councilmember Brown. I know that we said we'll have all the amendments at the end, but I know that since Councilmember Brown has to go to attend the hearing, we wanted to make sure his hearing on the body cameras, that we want to make sure he had the opportunity to do that. And those are absolutely great amendments, because we want to do everything we can to make sure that our firefighters and our police have a great quality of life, and this certainly for our firefighters does that. Thank you so much. Any questions or comments? All right, our next presenter will be, get my agenda back in front of me, I'm sorry. A piece of paper on my desk, I'm sorry. Will be, the development, from the Development Department, Assistant Director Bill Webster. Good evening.
Good evening, President Pro Tem Tyson, members of council. The Department of Development, our capital improvement program is used to support development initiatives by leveraging private investment to create jobs and neighborhood growth. Projects funded through our capital program include major infrastructure projects, demolition of vacant and abandoned housing, as well as commercial and residential renovations. This year, we are proposing a budget that is approximately $30,635,000. Now, the way that we are breaking this out, neighborhoods being first and foremost, Green Columbus Fund is asking for an additional $3 million. What we find is that within our central city, brownfields continue to be a challenge to redevelop. These properties are expensive, they're complicated, and quite frankly, we lack sources that we have had in years past to clean up these properties. This fund is critical to continue our brownfield program. Vacant and abandoned housing, we have made a lot of efforts with regards to eliminating vacant and abandoned housing. However, there's a great deal of work to be done. In fact, we want to dive deeper into, in cases where we can save houses, stabilizing them, which hopefully will lead to development renovation of these properties. So we are asking for actually an additional $1 million over what we asked for last year, which would be $3.5 million for the program this year. With regards to economic development, our 3P program continues to be one of our vital and most critical programs. This program is a public-private partnership that allows for us to work with developers to create projects that are smart, high growth density, high growth, well-done projects. The 3P program allows us to provide renovations in the public right-of-way to support the project. This ultimately leads to a cost-effective development project that, again, meets the needs of the neighborhoods and the plans that you've adopted as a council. Furthermore, with regards to housing, we are asking this year to fund two programs that last year did not receive funding, and that is the roof program and the Home Safe and Sound program. We are asking for $1.5 million for this program. We have a list of applicants that we are ready to do work with on this program, all being that the funds are made available. And then lastly, I want to mention that we are asking for $2 million to complete the Faith Mission project. In last year's 2015 CIB, we gave Faith Mission $1 million to acquire property. However, renovations to that property are necessary in order for it to become an active mission. The $2 million would allow them to get started immediately on construction and get that program up and running. Those are our major projects. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. The one question I'll ask would be the $3.5 million that we're looking at for the abandoned properties. Do you have any idea how many properties will be demolished with the $3.5 million?
I couldn't tell you a number right now. I could get you an estimate of how many properties we plan to demo. But again, the idea is to use this money as a combination of not just simply demo, but to use it to create stabilization and renovation in some cases. We don't always want to demo if we don't have to, if there are ways that we can save property. We're trying to look for ways to do that. I would be happy to research what we think is, from a pipeline perspective, we could do, but I apologize, I don't have that with me this evening.
Thank you. Do you know how many properties were demolished last year?
I apologize. I know that we have demolished 900 properties in total, I believe, through the program. However, I couldn't tell you specifically what we demolished in 2015. Our goal was, through the course of the last few years, to demolish 900 homes. We did finally hit that number.
Last year.
Or last year, but specifically the number that we demolished in 2015, I apologize, I do not know.
Okay. And another question I'll ask is that you just mentioned that, well, we have $2 million that's in this budget for the affordable workforce housing. Can you talk a little bit about that project?
The $2 million that we've highlighted for workforce housing, right now we are trying to identify projects. There have been a number of conversations that have taken place for possibilities with those funds, but as of now, we have not specifically decided where those funds are going to be spent on particular projects.
Okay, and lastly, you mentioned the Home Safe and Sound program, and can you share a little bit with the viewing and listening audiences how they could get information about the Home Safe and Sound program?
Yes, the Home Safe and Sound program is managed by our housing division. The administrator is Rita Paris. Rita, I wish I had her number memorized. She is in the audience. Rita, if you would be interested in coming up for a moment and just giving us a few tidbits about how someone could apply for that program.
I'm excited that you're adding additional dollars to it. I know that we run out of money quickly in this program. And Ms. Paris, thank you for being in council chambers this evening and sharing this information.
Chairman Tyson, members of council, good evening. The Home Safe and Sound program partners with the Neighborhood Pride program in selected neighborhoods throughout Columbus. In return for having code officers go door to door in the communities where Neighborhood Pride has been selected, we partner with those individuals in need of critical home repair up to $20,000 per home using councilmanic bond funds as a grant to the homeowner. In order for neighborhoods to participate, they must be selected for the Neighborhood Pride program. We begin selecting or taking applications on the day that each Neighborhood Pride begins, and there is a window for each Pride this year. First Pride this year is at Brittany Hills. It's the week of May 23rd. That will be the first day we take applications for that. They can either come to the location, the hub of each Neighborhood Pride. We will have loan officers on site from 11 to 2 each day to work with applicants. If they are not available to come during that time because of work or other obligations or transportation limitations, they can call our intake line, 614-645-8526. It is a voicemail line. They need to leave their name, their address, what they're interested in or what their needs are, and a daytime phone number where they can be contacted. A lot of folks, because they work during the day, will leave their home number. We're calling them back during the day. They're still at work. So it's got to be a daytime number. And if there are specific restrictions, for example, you can't take calls while you're on the job, what time your lunch or breaks are, and we will work to get back to you during that time. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you for coming down and sharing. Hello, Director Shoney. All right. Any questions for the development? Director, Councilmember Brown.
Deputy Director, you mentioned about the numbers. Will you be able to provide this council what your approximate guess is going to be for homes that are going to be demolished this year?
My apologies, I could not hear you very well from.
Are you going to be able to provide us with an idea or a number about what you're anticipating, how many homes will be abandoned or be demolished this year?
Absolutely. I can work with John Turner within our land management office, and we can provide that data to you.
That'll be fine. Thank you.
Councilmember Brown.
I have a quick question too on demo and renovation. I'm glad to hear that the priority is to try to save homes that can be saved. We hear from residents a lot that they want to see that in their neighborhoods. Can you talk to us about how the department makes that decision in terms of whether to demo or reno, and so we can help sort of guide residents?
If I may.
We're so happy to see you in chambers, and we want you to know that Bill Webster has been doing a fine job representing you, but yes, you can certainly, I think Bill is probably ready for you to take those questions.
You're happy to see me, Bill is happier to see me. Thank you, and I appreciate your patience. I was at a Celebrate One meeting and got literally closed into a room and couldn't get out in time, so I apologize. The process for a couple things on the process for deciding between demo and renovate or stabilization. We don't renovate, we stabilize so that then the private sector can come in and renovate. Two things are, well, number one, we look at the properties, we look at their condition, we look at what will it cost to stabilize it, and how marketable is the property. That's one side of it. The other side is we look at the availability of funds. We have two streams of funds, primarily. One is the funds that council provides. In this case, we're seeking $3.5 million. And then we also look to other federal and state funds. The federal and state funds tend to be much more targeted toward demolition. And so our priority for the city funds is, to the extent that we have properties that are suitable both from a structural standpoint and a marketability standpoint, will be to use the city dollars more towards stabilization and sale for renovation. I don't know if that answers your question, Councilmember Brown.
It does. Thank you.
I guess the question, the other part to that question would be, how do we when we identify property that can be stabilized, what do we do to make that happen?
So we hire contractors that are really concentrated. I mean, we go out, we have a bid process that the land management office or land redevelopment office goes through every year. We are always actively seeking qualified contractors for that process. We come with those contracts to council every year. We hire, I think we have, I get some of my contracts confused. I think we might have 7 or 8 contractors that we have on the list for this work with us right now. We go out, we'll do that assessment. We will have them essentially make the buildings watertight is the key function for us, so that we don't continue to have structural damage. That's the fundamental characteristic that we look at.
Thank you. Councilmember Page.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Tyson. Director Shoney, could you talk briefly, the $3.5 million, is that specifically for properties that are in possession of the city land bank?
Yes, that will be for properties that are in possession of the city land bank. One qualification for that, we partner very closely with the Central Ohio Community Improvement Corporation, COSIC, more commonly known as the County Land Bank. And if they have properties that are within the city limits, we may use those dollars in cooperation with COSIC. John Turner and his team and John Rosenberger at the County Land Bank and his team figure out that process very cooperatively, and we transfer properties back and forth frequently to be able to make the best use of funds.
And the last question I'll ask you, Director Shoney, is what are the neighborhoods that we are really focusing on in this year's capital improvements budget?
For the department, I think this is consistent with what you're seeing in overall in the city. There is a focus for us on Linden and Hilltop, but we're also focused on every other neighborhood in the city too. We will have a number of we have the UIRF program, the Urban Infrastructure Revitalization Fund program, that we partner with neighborhoods to begin to take care of their priorities. We partner with our friends in utilities and rec and parks and public service to put in sidewalks, put in street lights. We will be working throughout the city with our capital dollars.
Thank you. Any other questions for Director Shoney? Seeing none, thank you, Director Shoney.
Thank you.
The next presenter will be Assistant Director Steve Wenzel from Public Service.
Thank you, Council President Pro Tem Tyson, members of council. Thank you for this opportunity to speak briefly about the Department of Public Services proposed 2016 capital budget. Our proposed new funding capital budget of $124.6 million will invest in roadways, sidewalks, bikeways, bridges, and other projects that will improve the quality of life in neighborhoods, making them safer for motorists, pedestrians, and bicyclists. The centerpiece of Public Services' proposed capital budget is approximately $33 million for the city's resurfacing program. Of that $33 million, $31.5 will go to resurface more than 350 roads or 218 lane miles all over Columbus. It will also dedicate $1.5 million to improve approximately 24.7 miles of alleys across the city. A few examples of streets that we will be resurfacing in 2016 include Big Tree Drive from Harrisburg Pike to Buffalo Creek Court. This is in the Green Lawn Frank Road area. Broadmoor Avenue between Eastmoor Boulevard and Kellner Road in the Eastmoor Walnut Ridge area. Briarwood Avenue from Cleveland Avenue to McGuffey Road in the North Linden area. And Airport Drive from Sunbury Road to Nelson Road in the South Linden area. There will also be other major type roadway improvement projects that we are proposing in the budget. A major renovation to Hague Avenue from Broad Street to Sullivan Avenue, which includes providing improvements to the pavement, curb, sidewalk, bike facilities, accessibility crossings, traffic control devices, and stormwater facilities. Also proposed in this budget is a major rehab to Alum Creek Drive from Phoebus to Refugee, which includes pavement reconstructing and widening, addition of a shared use path or sidewalk on each side of the road, curb, gutter, ADA accommodations, street trees, storm sewers, traffic control devices, street lighting, and public and private utility work. The 2016 proposed capital budget includes $3.8 million to improve a number of intersections to make them safer. Construction will begin on Georgesville Road at Holt Road to improve that intersection, as well as construction at Cleveland Avenue and Schrock Road. We will also finalize design of Hilliard-Rome Road at Federer Road. Also proposed in the 2016 capital improvement budget is the continuation of the citywide ADA ramp program in the amount of $1 million and the citywide program on curb replacement in the amount of $2 million. The ADA curb ramp program includes design and construction of curb ramps at specific locations not otherwise associated with a CIP or a private development project. These ramps will come from 311 requests and ADA ramps with repair and maintenance issues. The curb program is a program established to provide repairs for existing curbs on a localized basis. Repairs are prioritized based upon citizen complaints through 311 as well as investigator reports. We also have a curb reimbursement program whereby citizens can replace faulty curbs, usually as they repair sidewalks on their property, and being reimbursed by the city for the curb repair. Also this year, to make neighborhoods safer, we proposed a significant investment of almost $16 million for the city's pedestrian Operation Safe Walks and bikeway programs. Some examples of these projects and programs include the final phase of the Joyce Avenue Operation Safe Walks project. This includes a full reconstruction from 2 to 3 lanes on Joyce Avenue from 17th to Kenmore, and will include an 8-foot wide shared use path on the west side of Joyce and a 6-foot wide sidewalk on the east side. Storm sewer upgrades and detention basin facilities to mitigate the flooding in the area, as well as water line work is included in the scope of the project. The Mound Street project constructs new sidewalks and curb ramps on the north and south sides of Mound Street between Benz Boulevard and Wayne Avenue. The Whittier Street project constructs new sidewalks on north and south sides of Whittier Street between Lockbourne Road and an alley east of Fairwood Avenue. The Fairwood Avenue project will install a sidewalk on the east side of Fairwood Avenue from Wayland Drive to Watkins Road. This project will include regrading between the roadway and the sidewalk to provide additional drainage for the proposed improvements. We will also install ADA ramps at intersections that are provided. Finally, in our 2016 capital budget, we propose investing $2.9 million to improve our city-owned bridges. The Department of Public Service is responsible for maintaining and improving as needed 223 bridges citywide. These bridges are all owned by the city. We are additionally responsible for another 118 bridges. We provide routine maintenance that are owned by the Ohio Department of Transportation. Again, thank you for the opportunity to present the highlights to the Public Service proposed 2016 capital improvements budget.
Thank you so much, Assistant Director Steve Wenzel. And your overall budget, your total budget with refuge and transportation is $196,728,000. Is that correct? Thank you. Can you discuss the plan for the additional improvements to the Scioto Peninsula and East Franklinton, which is budgeted at $7.6 million?
Sure. The Scioto Peninsula project is basically two separate projects as we have it budgeted in the 2016 proposed budget. There's improvements that we're going to actually make to Broad Street itself, which is going to start just east of Broad Street Bridge and run west on Broad Street past the Vets Memorial. So we're actually doing street improvements. We're going to resurface it, improve the sidewalks, just do a total rehab of the Broad Street. And there's also another project called the Scioto Peninsula Duck Bank Project. This is where we're going to install conduit along the whole corridor, so in order to underground utilities and make it a nicer feel to the whole area over on that side of town.
Thank you. Besides public utilities, you have the most significant portion of this budget, and certainly just in your presentation today, certainly focused on our roads, our sidewalks. I'm especially excited about the improvements that's going to happen in the Linden area, as well as the work on the west side, but also there's significant road work and sidewalk and with almost in every community within the city of Columbus. And just really appreciate the administration and certainly this council focusing on ensuring that all neighborhoods are having improvements within public service. So, and to Councilmember Hardin, thank you for your leadership working with the administration. But it's if you look at all the projects, it's significant to the city of Columbus. So, thank you. Any questions for Councilmember Hardin? Any questions for him?
Sure. Thank you, Chair Tyson. Certainly want to echo Chair Tyson's appreciation to the Public Service Department. To you, Steve, for working with Director and leading this effort, the work with Director Lombardi to get us a capital improvement budget with several projects that I think will help move our community forward. Like Chair Tyson said, this budget, $196 million for the entire department, but 103 that fall under my committee, $103 million for streets, sidewalks, and roads improvements. Of that, very excited about the $33 million invested in our repavement project, our plan. Again, the largest investment that we've made in streets and sidewalks to date. Talk about how we prioritize streets. So how do we get to the 300 streets that we are going to pave this year? Talk about our expected completion date for those streets and how folks can add their street to the list. So how does the viewing audience figure out how to get their street on?
Sure, Chair Tyson, members of council. What the department does for our resurfacing program is we work with in-house design staff, as well as we have a consultant that's under contract, where they help us go out and we evaluate all of our streets within the city. And what we do is we assign what we call a PCN number to the street, which is a pavement condition number. What they'll do is they'll go out and evaluate the street, how it looks, how many potholes there are, how many times we've done slurry seal or crack seal to help maintain it over a length of time. They'll actually take core samples of the road to see, if it's degrading in any place. And once we do all these types of samples, we'll assign that PCN number to it. And what we do when we start our program is we go from the bottom of the list. We go with the worst PCN numbers, and we work our way up until we run out of money, basically. I know we did a study years ago where if we wanted to maintain all of our streets properly, we would need almost $60 million a year to resurface. So we're trying to stay ahead of the game by adding more and more money each year. But we pretty much just work from the bottom and kind of look at the city as a whole, not just one particular area.
Thank you. I was going to say, get yourself in trouble and tell us that number we would need to do it, and then you just did it anyway, so I appreciate that. And my last question, I also chair the Small and Minority Business Committee on Council. $103 million out of my committee is a lot of money that we are, as a city, are spending. What are we doing? How are we working with our contractors when we put out bids to ensure that small and minority female-owned businesses have opportunities to get these contracts?
I think we do a pretty good job in our department. I think it's more challenging on the construction side of finding the right minority and small business enterprises to work on our projects. I know on the design side, we actually do pretty well. We typically are, in the 20% range when we look at subs as well as primes. We actually do put, not goals per se, but, some initiatives within our RFPs to include subcontractors that are small businesses. I think on the construction side, we did do some outreach a couple years ago to encourage smaller businesses to bid on our projects. I know sometimes it's overwhelming because if you look at a resurfacing project, one of our packages is $10 million. It's kind of hard for them to grasp that. I know a few years ago under prior director Kelsey, we put out some smaller resurfacing bids, like $500,000, $600,000 range, and we still got the same primes that bid on it. So I know it's been challenging on the construction side, but I think we do a better job on the design side.
Well, I appreciate the commitment from you, from Director Gallagher, and really from the entire city to support small and minority businesses and to work to figure out those ways to be creative in supporting those businesses because they support our community. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Hardin. Any other questions or comments? Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Elizabeth Brown.
Thank you. I just have a question about you. It was helpful to hear the process for the PCN for roadways. Is there a similar process or a process for sidewalks?
For sidewalks, typically, if we're talking about new sidewalks, it's a different process. We give a lot of priority to installing new sidewalks in areas where there's like school, where there's CODA bus stops, where there's additional traffic or people actually trying to get into and from either businesses or work. But we don't actually have like a separate consultant that comes in and helps us do that. We just try to identify via 311 requests on repairs of sidewalks. But as far as new sidewalks, it's more along the lines of the need.
All right. Any other questions? Thank you. All right. Our next presenter is going to be from Public Utilities, Assistant Director Jonathan Lee. Good evening.
President Pro Tem Tyson and members of council, thank you for the opportunity to present an overview of the Department of Public Utilities 2016 capital improvement budget. The department's capital budget totals $672 million. These capital dollars allow our department to continue to meet state and federal EPA regulations, focus on water quality through enhanced treatment processes, improve water distribution and sewer collection systems, and provide street lighting and stormwater improvements in neighborhoods. Majority of our capital dollars are supported by bond funds and the Ohio EPA loan program. These loan dollars are targeted for construction and allow us to take advantage of low interest rates and favorable loan terms. Our budget includes approximately $330 million in loan funds. Some of the highlights of our 2016 budget: we have about $59 million for our Blueprint Columbus program, $8.5 for street light projects, $38 million for storm sewer improvements, and $36 million for water line improvement projects. All of these dollars, of these total dollars, roughly $110 million are regulatory driven. Our budget includes spending across all planning areas and neighborhoods. Some of those areas include $23 million for the North and South Linden area, $35 million in Hilltop, and $25 million in the Near East area. This summer, our Columbus Blueprint Columbus program will begin construction in the Clintonville area, and we're targeting over $25 million for this first phase of construction. Planning and design efforts will continue in 2016 for additional blueprint phases in the Linden, Hilltop, and Miller-Kelton areas. We also have two major projects in the Rocky Fork and Rickenbacker planning areas, which are estimated to cost $192 million. One project is the Black Lick Creek Interceptor Project, which will improve sanitary service to Jefferson Township and the New Albany area. And the other is our Big Walnut Rickenbacker Sewer Project, which will allow us to fully serve the village of Lockbourne intermodal transportation facility and development in that area. Finally, our streetlight program continues to light Columbus's streets and neighborhoods. Our capital budget includes over $3.7 million in new dollars for this program. We currently have over 21 streetlight projects planned for design and construction in the near term. Some of these important projects include the Hall Road project in the Westland area, which will add 64 streetlights, the South Westgate Sylvan project, which will add 177 lights, and the Willow Creek Streetlight project, which will add about 140 lights. President Pro Tem Tyson and members of council, thank you again for allowing me to provide a summary of the 2016 capital improvement budget for the Department of Public Utilities, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Assistant Director Lee. One question I would like to ask you was regarding the Blueprint Initiative. Could you share a little bit about that initiative with our viewing and listening audience, and even specifically the three neighborhoods that you talked about this evening?
Sure. Our Blueprint Columbus program is a robust effort to combat the problem of inflow and infiltration in our sewer system. What we plan to do this summer, we're focusing on the Clintonville area, and we have about $25 million in construction planned. What we're planning on doing is letting those projects, probably about 7 in total, construction projects, and what they will focus in on is installing green infrastructure and also doing some lateral lining. And so we are estimating that we're going to spend around this amount to 50 up to $100 million in some years on Blueprint for many years to come. We recently received approval from the Ohio EPA for our Blueprint program that runs out to 2035. Originally it was to 2045, so we reduced our plan 10 years, saving, going from $2.5 billion down to $1.7 billion for the whole the program. It was part of our consent decree. So we're very excited about our Blueprint program, and as I mentioned, the other phases in the Linden and Hilltop and Miller-Kelton area, those will be under design in 2016 with construction around 2018, I'm sorry.
And again, the significant amount of dollars in this capital budget is around water, sewer, and stormwater. And we all know how important that is, just in light of what's going on. Again, everyone now can relate to Flint, unfortunately, but how important it is that we're making those investments in our infrastructure in those areas. Any questions or comments? No? All right. So our next presenter is going to be Director Tony Collins from Recreation and Parks.
Thank you, Council President Pro Tem, members of council. Thanks for being here tonight. In terms of our 2016 improvement budget, capital improvement budget, the Recreation and Parks Department is looking to plan $37 million worth of investments with two of our core services in mind, and that is providing equal access to parks as well as providing opportunities for recreation, equal access and opportunities for recreation. The budget is aligned with our priorities from the mayor, our priorities from the Recreation and Parks Master Plan adopted in 2014 by our commission. The underlying theme for our capital approach this year is smart growth, to invest in our current assets and infrastructure and to grow them only when it's financially feasible and sustainable. Some examples include investment in parks and green space, including $950,000 for hard surface improvements such as parking lots, basketball courts, and tennis courts, $500,000 for improving our playground safety, $1.2 million towards the removal of trees impacted by the emerald ash borer, $350,000 towards improvements to Linden Park. We're very excited about our efforts in Linden this year, including the opening of Douglas that you know, but specifically we're continuing that investment with almost $1 million total investment in Linden that also includes that $350,000. We have $4.4 million for bikeways with a focus on connecting trails. We want to connect our neighborhoods to our regional trail system that we've been working so hard on. We also want to update our facilities. Facility highlights include $6.4 million towards improvements at the Indian Mound Community Center, $2.4 million towards the renovation and the reopening of the Davis Center at Franklin Park. It's a facility that's been shuttered for a number of years. We're looking forward to opening that back up again. We want to continue our improvements at our athletic complexes. We're going to invest $700,000 towards air conditioning and upgrades at our athletic complexes, and $3 million towards investment in a building at called the Wyandotte Lodge at Indian Village, which is at the McKnight Outdoor Education Center, an additional space to allow us to expand our programming and serve the residents better in that site. We're very excited about the year. I'd be happy to open up for any questions.
Thank you. I have one question regarding the URF funding and the anticipated use of that $4 million in 2016.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first part of it. The $4 million in 2016 towards... Got you. We work actually with the Development Department in outlining the priorities for the UIRF funds, and each of those are designated towards neighborhoods that we work together on.
Okay. You also have $3.15, I know you wish it was 3.5, but $3.15 million that for the recreation centers to be retrofitted with HVAC this year. Which recreation centers will be getting those upgrades?
So we're looking at a couple of facilities. We're going to continue to work on our athletic complexes. We're going to add air conditioning to one of our athletic complexes. But we're also looking at the redesign of the Indian Mound Center. And that facility will use some of the HVAC funds to help do that renovation as well.
Thank you. I'm also very excited about the reopening of the Davis Center. Certainly, I have fond experiences of being at Franklin Park and just appreciate the reopening of that facility. So congratulations on this budget. Any questions for the director?
Director Collins, you mentioned safety. Are you talking about cameras or more illumination at some of the rec centers? What are your plans?
Actually, we in this particular budget, there's not additional funds for specific safety measures beyond what we would normally do in our design of our facilities. However, we are allocating additional funds in this year's funding, in 2016 funds, to improve and upgrade our camera systems in our recreation centers.
And our last presenter this evening will be from the Department of Technology, Deputy Director Sherry Kish.
Thank you. Good evening, President Pro Tem Tyson and members of council. Thank you for the opportunity to share the Department of Technology's proposed 2016 capital improvement budget. The Department of Technology supports the local government information infrastructure by providing uninterrupted, secure, and reliable information systems. Many of the public-facing work that our technology department provides, like our website and the My Columbus app, are handled through the general fund. The capital budget funds much of the work we provide for our city department customers. Our proposed 2016 capital improvement budget is $5,545,000 in new funding. These dollars include the following proposed projects: renovations at our data center. The main data center of the city is the backbone of the city's technology infrastructure and needs to be secure and prepared for disaster recovery. The data center renovations will include upgrading our fire detection services, lead detection services, replacing our uninterrupted power supply, and adding barrier fencing. Disaster recovery. Given the nature of technology's work with all of the important departments of the city, it is critical that we can proactively prepare for disasters that may strike the city of Columbus and impact the technology needs of our departments. There are dollars in this proposed budget to update technology's disaster recovery plan. And I'm sorry, my first renovations at the data center, combined with carryover dollars, that will be approximately $700,000, and the disaster recovery piece is approximately $300,000. Our third project is technology storage. As the city continues to embrace technology in day-to-day business through paper reduction and projects like body cameras, the demands on technology for secure storage of data have substantially grown. There is money in this proposed budget to continue to upgrade and build our server storage to accommodate the needs of the city through purchases of additional servers and appropriate licensing. Combined with the dollars in public safety, that will be approximately $2 million. VoIP, or Voice over Internet Protocol, is a project that the city will continue, replacing landline phones with phones that run over the internet, which creates long-term savings for the city, and that's approximately $400,000. Police infrastructure. Technology has made a concerted effort over the past few years to work with police to upgrade their technology equipment. There are proposed dollars in this budget to continue this effort with a focus on upgrading end-of-life equipment and data storage, and that's around $910,000. And lastly, fiber. The city has been building a fiber network to deliver better municipal services over the past decade. We will continue that through proposed dollars in this year's budget. Allowing strategic fiber build-outs to city facilities creates efficiencies in network connectivity, and that'll be about $1.5 million. And this is those dollar amounts that I've given you mainly were new funding for 2016, and most of those will be combined with dollars from 2015. So thank you so much for allowing me to share some of the highlights of technology's proposed capital budgets, and I'm open to questions.
Thank you, Deputy Director Kish. And you just mentioned on your last point the $1.5 million that was for the fiber network infrastructure. Can you also just discuss also the importance of having the fiber network for our economic development?
Actually, yes, I was in a meeting today with Director Shoney talking about that earlier. There are 4 components to our fiber program: municipal services, public safety, digital divide, and economic development. And obviously, with economic development, we're always looking at ways to show businesses why the city of Columbus is the right place for them to land. And this will allow the opportunity for businesses to access fiber. We will be selling and leasing dark fiber, which will allow them to go out to the market and get bids from internet providers at probably a lower rate than what they would be able to get if they went with a provider that's out there right now. And I don't know if Director Shoney wants to add anything else on that.
Dr. Shoney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In addition to what Deputy Director Kish had to say, the other thing I would say is the more fiber that we can make available to the market, the better off we're going to be. When we look at things like our Smart Cities Challenge, and our efforts to use our transportation technology, use new transportation technology, the ability to move data and store data, I think you heard that in technology's presentation as well, is going to be critical to operating our city more efficiently. We don't know how that's going to happen, but we do know that the basic infrastructure of that is going to be fiber. And so having that fiber in place now is an investment for the future that will pay dividends that we don't understand today, but we know that's going to be where the technology goes.
Thank you, Director Shoney and Deputy Director Kish. And so thank you for your presentations. Investments made in this budget will certainly spur economic development, keep our communities safe, and also enhance our neighborhoods. And now, at this time, we will cover City Council's amendments that will be included in this budget. And the first council member to share their amendments will be Councilmember Hardin and Councilmember Stenziano on your sidewalk and curb.
Thank you, Chair Tyson, and again, appreciate working with you and with the departments to put together this capital budget. This year, working with Councilmember Stenziano, we are proposing a program, a sidewalk grants program that would help alleviate the pressure of fixing homeowners' sidewalks in front of their home if they are low income. Sometimes when we go out and specifically through code, we cite deteriorating sidewalks. We want to add some help, so if you do get a citation, that you then have the support of this grants program to cover it up to $1,500. Right now, we are at the beginning stages of this conversation of how we make this program work. We are following kind of the basic guidelines of the Development Department's roof repavement program. And so we'll be working with development, working with certainly folks in public service to figure out just the best way to do this. And certainly we'd like to have more input, but we are going to be aggressive in getting this rolled out. Folks have already given us a first draft of how this program would work, but still have some tweaks. So I would just tell the viewing audience to watch this space. We will work to publicize it and get the information out on who would qualify and how they can sign up for the program. But thank you so much for letting us offer this amendment.
And how much to share with the viewing and listening audience the amount of the amendment?
We are recommending or proposing a $550,000 program. And our hope always is that programs like this have a lot of interest and that we go through these resources. But we think that we hear this request time and time again. We all know that sidewalks are homeowners' responsibilities. And so this is our attempt to step up to support those low-income homeowners who are already struggling to stay in their homes, make sure that they have the quality of community. So I would appreciate the support of my colleagues. Certainly, Councilmember Stenziano and his efforts to support this has been greatly appreciated. Councilmember
Stenziano. Thank you, Councilmember Hardin, and I think you just hit it on the head. It's something we've heard from residents, and this is an innovative solution followed after another modeled program that we know has been successful, and we're hoping to be able to replicate that. Working on the details, but I think we've heard from residents loud and clear, and so the commitment from this council, if we get the amendment support, is there, and really appreciate your leadership, Councilmember Hardin, in getting this done.
I think that also you mentioned earlier, Councilmember Hardin, that you asked a question about opportunities for minority and small and female-owned businesses. As you're putting out your plans for this may be an opportunity, because I know oftentimes we certainly, to get the dollars out, I know that from talking to Director Shoney and some others, that sometimes that our issues become that we don't have enough, well, a couple things. One, we may not have enough businesses to do the work, so this provides a great opportunity for minority, small, and female-owned businesses. And the other is to think about how do we work with the departments, because as we roll out our programs, it requires, I know, individuals to help manage those programs, so to get these dollars out. And so it's a great program. I absolutely know that it's certainly needed in communities, and work out the logistics, and I think that it will be a success for our homeowners, because this is really about, as you guys are talking about, if we're talking about stabilizing neighborhoods, this is all part of stabilizing neighborhoods. So congratulations, thank you for the amendment. The next one will be from Councilmember Stenziano. Your other amendments.
The one amendment that I wanted to highlight that is on my own is the Hall Road lighting project. Looking at the estimated cost of the proposed Hall Road street lighting project, which was $266,240, the Department of Public Utilities determined that without additional funding of the amount of $200,000 that would be provided in this amendment, the project would likely have to be put on hold due to the funding limitations. The additional $200,000 will allow the city to fully fund the Hall Road lighting project and still allow the Department of Public Utilities to fund street lighting projects for other streets, including South Westgate, Valley View, Willow Creek, Dublin, Granville, Dewood, and Maple. The Hall Road street lighting project involves the installation of approximately 64 overhead street lights with overhead wiring on wooden poles, and the improvement will be on Hall Road between Old Hall Road and Georgesville Road, and this project is part of the Westland planning area.
Thank you, Councilmember Stenziano. The next council member that will be sharing will be Councilmember Elizabeth Brown, and I guess in Councilman Stenziano, they have another project.
Thank you so much, Pro Tem. The amendment I want to highlight is the Westland Gateway project, and the amount is for $100,000 for the intersection at I-270 and the West Broad Street area. It's considered the gateway to the Westland area, and in this, crucial part of the city where the casino has gone in nearby. And one of the reasons I want to highlight this is that it's an example of partnership, which I think the City of Columbus does very well, but this is an instance, again, where we are partnering to make a larger project possible. We're partnering with I want to thank the Westland Area Commission for initially bringing this to Councilmember Stenziano and me, the Westland Area Business Association, Prairie Township, Franklin Township, and the Hollywood Casino itself. This is not just a public project, it's a public-private partnership. And I know that Jenny Snap with Franklin County, they are also partnering. She is here and she will be speaking a little more in detail later on, so I thank her for that. But something that I also want to highlight in addition to the partnership that this project illustrates is these sort of physical improvements, hardscape, gateway projects are really an economic development tool. As we're looking at our various neighborhoods and how we help build them up, beautifying and adding that confidence to the neighborhood is a big part of the economic development that can follow. So I want to thank Councilmember Stenziano for working together with us on this amendment. And I don't know if there's anything you want to add.
Just very briefly, you hit on the head. I mean, this serves as a gateway for this community and for all our communities. We know how important the hardscape can be. And so your leadership, those partners that you mentioned, really committing to making a true gateway that's going to serve for economic development, but for pride for that community as well. And so that's why we hopefully will have the support of our colleagues in the budget.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Brown and Councilman Stenziano. And our next council member is Councilmember Jiza Page.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Tyson. And I am proposing 2 amendments to our budget. The first one being to add additional money to our roofing program that Deputy Director Steve Wenzel talked about. And this is a citywide program, and as he said, we have a lot of people on the waiting list and want to continue to make sure we have those monies available to repair individuals' roofs who's not able to provide that for themselves. And just for those who are listening, the citywide roof replacement program intake line is 614-645-8526. And if you have any questions, please email those to homesafeandsound@columbus.gov. And I'm adding $100,000. My second amendment, I will be partnering with Councilmember Shannon Hardin for a competitive grant housing program. Would like to put $100,000 into this new initiative and to work with small nonprofits who are doing work across the city to revitalize vacant and abandoned houses, and are working with our youth and those who are returning to society, our restored citizens, and really just making a difference in our community on a smaller scale, but we want to be able to provide that support for them. So we are in the process of working with Director Shoney in the Development Department to put that together and get the grant applications out as soon as possible. So those are the 2 amendments that I am proposing, and I would ask my colleagues to support them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Page. And now I'd like to highlight the amendments that I'm offering. For the 3rd year, I am supporting the James Johnson Driving Park Home Repair Program by providing $300,000 in funding. This program is a program I supported in the amount of $1 million in 2014 in the 2014 CIB. $400,000 last year, and it invests in essential home repairs in the driving park area. This program is named in honor of beloved community leader, veteran, and Civic Association President, Mr. James Johnson. This fund honors his life, his legacy, and his tireless service to our community. There's been a substantial need demonstrated for the program for additional funding. There are over 144 applicants on the waiting list. And also, I am offering an amendment for $756,000 for the King Arts Complex. The King Arts Complex is a community asset and is in the need of critical structural and security improvements. This capital budget expenditure will help ensure this neighborhood anchor remains safe, secure, and sound for future generations. Again, it's important to the quality of life in this community. I applaud my colleagues who listened to the community and included $2,250,000 in funding for projects that enhance security and safety in our neighborhoods. Ultimately, this capital improvements budget is about leveraging dollars and helping communities to thrive by strengthening neighborhoods, fortifying safety forces, and economic expansion. I believe we have accomplished these things in this budget. And this budget also means jobs, because the capital improvements budget is about infrastructure. And that means individuals will be working to improve those infrastructures, and that's jobs for our community. And jobs for our community mean dollars are going to go into our income tax. So we're always excited about that. So we have a few speakers this evening to make comments on this budget. And the first speaker, and they will come up, state your name and organization you represent. You have 3 minutes to share. The first one is Mr. John Whitten Jr. He is the Driving Park Civic Association, and he is I think he's the president of the Driving Park Civic Association. Mr. Whitten. Good evening.
Good evening to President Pro Tem Tyson and the City Council. On behalf of the Driving Park Civic Association and the community, we'd like to thank the entire City Council and committees for your continued support of the Driving Park community and the City of Columbus. We are proud of our neighborhood, as you can see, as we're working hard to uplift our community with 144 people still on the list waiting for home repair money. We are also proud to stand on the shoulders of those that set the groundwork and came before us, including Mr. James Johnson. We look forward to the support Council is giving Driving Park, look forward to working with improving our neighborhoods. Thank you again from the Driving Park Civic Association. We look forward to working to improve our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Whitten, for coming down and sharing your comment in support of the legislation. Thank you.
Thank you again.
Our next speaker is Demetrius Neely from the King Arts Complex. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, President Pro Tem and members of City Council. Thank you for allowing us to speak this evening. I want to thank the City Council for all of your support in the past, and thank you for the support that you're contemplating this evening. The King Arts Complex, as you know, is housed in a city building, the old Garfield School, and I also want to thank Director Collins because he's very supportive of the organization. We're housed in a city building, the old Garfield School, and that building is about 100 years old. Due to deferred maintenance, age, wear and tear, the building is in need of a lot of repair. We recently had Nationwide come in and do an assessment of the building. They looked at everything from plumbing to electricity to roofing and did a complete assessment of our building and gave us a robust report. And the bottom line was the building needs a lot of repair, about $1 million worth. So we are asking the city for money to help us with that. They found problems with mechanical, structural, life safety, and so forth. So as you know, the city uses the building for a lot of programming, and we have an award-winning youth education program, so there are a lot of kids in the building all the time. So we can ill afford not to try to fix some of these things. I think that we have tried to do incredible work in that community and incredible work with our residents and with our community stakeholders. So we just would like to get support for the improvements to the King Arts Complex. And I'll answer any questions that you have at this time.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you for coming
Thank
down.
you.
And thank you for you having a partner, public-private partnership, come in and evaluate your building and share that information. That's helpful information as the city looks at supporting this. Obviously, in this particular capital improvement budget, that will certainly go a lot towards those $1 million worth of improvements that need to be made to your building.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming down. The next presenter is Jenny Snap, representing the Westland, Franklin County, and she's going to come on top of the Westland Gateway project. Good evening, Ms. Snap.
Good evening, members of council. My name is Jenny Snap. I'm the Assistant Director at Franklin County Economic Development and Planning. I lead the planning, zoning, building, and GIS services for Franklin County. Several months ago, we formed an informal committee of various jurisdictions and community groups in the west area of Columbus, west area of Franklin County, to start talking about how we can improve the perception of that area of town. We really decided to focus on the I-270 West Broad Street corridor. We recognize that residents and visitors of the region often feel unsafe. They have a negative connotation, negative perception of that area. And so we decided to formalize this group, and we've since then created an RFQ to start soliciting firms to come and look at the design and planning of that particular interchange. We have some funding partners already in place, which includes Franklin County, Prairie Township, Franklin Township, Hollywood Casino, and the Weston Vision Group, as well as the Haydocy Group of dealerships. This is, as Councilperson Brown mentioned, a true public-private partnership and a true PPP approach to improving the actual aesthetics of the region. So we do hope to enter into a possible partnership with the Neighborhood Design Center, and as you know, the City of Columbus also supports the Neighborhood Design Center financially. It's our intention to enter into a planning process to engage residents of the region, to start soliciting some feedback on various design options. It's our hope to have an actual design in place where we can start moving forward with both landscaping and hardscape and streetscape. And it's with that we would request and certainly ask for your consideration for support of financially in that particular phase of the process. Our first planning phase, we do have the funding for to move forward with, so we do appreciate all your support and consideration for that. Pending any questions, I'd appreciate your consideration.
Thank you for coming down, and certainly you said it's for the hardscape and the streetscape, and that's part of the capital improvements plan, and excited because you're right, as Councilman Brown and Stenziano said, that to have that change it's key to economic development. It's about quality of life, how a community looks. That determines how people want to move and live there. So thank you for coming down. Thank you for the work of Councilman Brown and Councilmember Stenziano. Thank you, Ms. Snap.
Much appreciated.
And our final speaker is Sue Valillo from the Faith Mission. Good evening, Sue.
Good evening, President Pro Tem Tyson and council members. My name is Sue Valillo. I'm the Executive Director of Choices for Victims of Domestic Violence, as well as Faith Mission. Both are programs of Lutheran Social Services. And Larry Crowell, the CEO of LSS, sends his regrets. He's out of town tonight. First, we want to thank you for all the support that you have given to LSS and Faith Mission over the years, especially in our mission to support people who are experiencing homelessness in our community. Your support has been exemplified in many ways. First, several years ago, you gave us funds to purchase and renovate a building at 245 North Grant. That is now our Client Services Center. It holds our employment resource centers, clinics that provide medical, dental, vision, and podiatry services, as well as our community kitchen that serves 3 meals a day, every day of the year. More recently, in 2015, you provided $1 million in capital funds for us to purchase what was called the Buckeye Printing Building, which is adjacent to our Client Services Center. Now this evening, I am here to thank you for considering our next request for $2 million to complete the renovation of the Buckeye Printing Building. It is at 217 North Grand Avenue, and as I said, is adjacent to our current Client Services Center. The building at 217 North Grant will have shelter for 110 men experiencing homelessness and 46 women. We will also be relocating our shelter beds specifically for homeless veterans. A small portion of our building has already been renovated to provide space for our supportive service for veterans' families. That is a program that works with veterans' households in the community to prevent an episode of homelessness. So it's nice to have all of our veteran services under one roof, makes them much more accessible for our veterans' families. Beyond placing all of the beds in a more up-to-date facility, they will be located adjacent to the aforementioned 245 North Grant Client Service Center that will result in increased ease of access for clients to the clinic and the community kitchen, staffing efficiencies, and will cut down on some of the foot traffic in the neighborhood as folks leave the shelter to come to our client services building. An added benefit of the relocation of these two shelters will be the enabling of the continued economic development along the East Long Street corridor. Again, we want to thank the Mayor and City Council for your compassionate leadership and support of this initiative, which will further advance our unified response to people experiencing homelessness and continue to provide them with quality services in a dignified environment.
Any questions for Sue? Sue, thank you for coming down. First of all, thank you for the work that you're doing with Choices, keeping women and men safe that may be involved in domestic violence. And then second of all, the work that you're doing with our homeless community. We truly appreciate the work that you're doing and all the supportive services that you're providing for the individuals that you are caring for throughout Faith Mission. So thank you for coming down this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you to all the speakers who came down and joined us this evening and shared their testimony. Funding provided in this proposed budget will allow us to maintain the wonderful quality of life that we have in the city of Columbus. In the coming years, we will continue to work for safe neighborhoods, job creation, economic development, and a strong public infrastructure. The capital improvement budget will be on the council agenda for passage this Monday, May the 2nd, and this meeting will begin at 5 p.m. I want to thank Finance and Management Director Joe Lombardi and his staff who helped to put this budget together. And I see Cal Seaver and Rob Newman in the room. Thank you very much for helping to be the architects of this budget with Director Lombardi. Also, I want to thank Hugh Dorian, our auditor, who isn't here, but always who helps guide this process. He lets us know how much money we really can spend, and appreciate Mr. Dorian. And thank also Greg Davies from the Mayor's Chief of Staff for also. And also Public Safety Director Speaks and Deputy Director Kate Pishotti. I also want to thank the Development Director Stephen Shoney, and tonight also Bill Webster, who shared, who did a great job representing the Development Department. Public Service, I want to thank tonight Assistant Director Steve Wenzel for his presentation. From Public Utilities, I want to thank Assistant Director Jonathan Lee, our wonderful Director Tony Collins for Recreation and Parks. We just opened a new recreation center this past weekend, which was fabulous. And I also want to thank Deputy Director Sherry Kish from Technology. Thank you so much. I see in the audience the Chief of Staff to President Klein, and I see Ed Roberts. Thank the Chief of Staff. Thank you, Ed, for being in council chambers and your leadership on this budget. Also, I want to thank the Legislative Research Director, Michael Kessler, who is in the room this evening. Thank you, Michael. Also, Senior Legislative Advisor Matt Erickson, who is just a joy to work with. I'm so glad he came over to council from the Finance Department. And also my staff, Nicole Harper and Carl Williams from CTV for making this hearing always a success. I also want to thank my council members who were in chambers this evening, and I know Council President Klein could not be here, but thank my council members and their staffs for the diligent work that they do each and every day, making the city of Columbus a better community. They all work very hard, and so we're very thankful to those staffs, but also to my council colleagues who have worked diligently on their amendments and also reviewing this budget, and so we're ready to pass it on May the 2nd. And lastly, just want to thank the Columbus community for allowing us all of us to be able to serve them, from the administration to this council. We thank you for allowing us to do this work. It is great work to be able to serve this community. It's an honor and a privilege for us to serve. And that's why we have one of the best cities in the country, because of all of us. So again, thank you to the residents for giving us this opportunity and making this the best, the Columbus, the best city to live, work, to raise a family, and to be Columbus an opportunity city. So thank you, good night, and see you on Monday. Thank you.